So right now, most of the area, we're seeing flood watches that will go into effect for tomorrow. You can see that includes Calhoun, Talladega, Shelby, Bibb, Hale, Greene, and Sumter and points north. But further south, if you're in Clanton, if you're in Rockford, Ashland, Sylacauga areas there, localized flooding still a concern as we have the possibility for some training of some heavier rain and storms starting tomorrow. That's when the heavier rain moves in. You hear us all the time talk about atmospheric rivers, and you hear that a lot across the Pacific Northwest. Well, we have our own atmospheric river. It's going to be a moist southwest flow that's kicking in. We're already seeing a steady flow of rain that's been drifting in along the Mississippi River Valley, and that's going to slide over our region tomorrow. So we'll see wave after wave of rain making its way west to east across Alabama. And you can see as we work through the data tomorrow morning, the heaviest rain is going to be ongoing in areas back to the west, but that starts to move our way by late morning, midday. There again could be some embedded storms. Now, not expecting severe thunderstorms, but there could be some heavier rain. We'll see some scattered showers for the morning drive out ahead of this. Kind of like today, some light rain will be around, but the heavier stuff and that steadier rain is going to move in by midday. And that heavier rain is actually going to be with us around 5, 6 o'clock tomorrow. So expect some visibility impacts, some slowdowns for the drive home tomorrow. There will certainly be some heavier rain making its way into our area. Nothing extreme at the moment, but I am starting to see some of these scattered light showers to the south starting to make that return tonight. Again, we'll have some of this rain around, certainly enough to keep some of those roadways very slippery there through early tomorrow morning. The temperatures, though, what a turnaround. A lot of 60s showing up across the area. Now, this is the flood risk outlook map from the Weather Prediction Center. I know it looks a lot like the convective outlooks, but this is highlighting where we see the greatest risk for localized flooding tomorrow. And you can see that that's setting up for areas to the northwest. Start times will need to be alert starting in the morning and continuing throughout the day for those northwest areas. But the heaviest of the rain again around midday starts to work through the heart of the area and then into East Alabama during the afternoon. But once that rain sets in, again, it's going to be with us through tomorrow night and into the day on Thursday. But we'll walk you through the rest of the week. Coming up, we'll have a look at our 7-day forecast. We'll be tracking that system for the weekend that could bring quite a bit of rainfall for Saturday. And in Hamilton, the city is telling our team that about 40% of you now have water and more relief is on the way. Our Brian Henry spoke with city leaders in the community on what they have been doing to provide assistance.
And they were still rolling in today through the Hamilton Fire Station. Folks like Presley Godsey wasn't about to pass up a chance to get her case of bottled water.
Where I live about 5 miles from here, but we have yet to receive any water at all.
But Hamilton Mayor Bob Page says the water is on the way. It just takes time for the water to run through the lines, one section of the town at a time.
We looked at the telemeters on our tanks and we saw blue, and that's a good indication. We have water back in several of our tanks now. We're gaining volume overnight. We're pumping 1,440 gallons per minute.
In other words, the water is flushing things out, but the mayor cautions anyone from drinking any tap water until they get the all clear signal that it's safe to drink. Water samples are being done today. Here at the fire department, for example, the water first came out a little brown, but then cleared up.
It was extremely chaotic at the house.
Assistant Fire Chief Matt McCracken says they've been busy, but he's managed to find a little humor along the way.
I commented to somebody that we had more cars in town last night than we do during Christmas parades.
The mayor estimated about 40% of the city's 4,000 plus households have water in their pipes, making progress by the hour. For now, the Hamilton Fire Department is ground zero for the commodity of water. Bye. And lots of it.
And Mayor Page says it's okay for people to go ahead and grab a shower and baths, but cautions against washing any clothes until further notice. And some great news for the Randolph community in Bibb County. The Randolph Water System tells WBRC all its customers have water in their pipes, but there is still a boil water advisory that is in effect. This is due to the water in the lines having to be tested before it is safe to drink. And as we continue to talk about the threat for flash flooding tomorrow, we're on your side with some important safety tips. Let's head to meteorologist Lauren Linehan.
Hey Wes, well, when we talk about flooding, and that can be anywhere, not just here in central Alabama, but we want to differentiate what the impacts could be if you live in an urban area like here in the Birmingham metro, or perhaps you live in a more rural part of our area. So let's take a look here at urban impacts. If you think about an urban area like a city, most of the ground is covered in pavement, concrete. So when rain falls, it's not able to absorb, because if you think about it, pavement, concrete, they're not very absorptive materials. So what you're going to have is excessive rain that can actually overwhelm the storm drainage systems we have in city. That's why Birmingham is so prone to flash flooding. We've covered so many flooding events here, and that can certainly be problematic. But what if you live in a rural area? If you live somewhere like a rural area, you can see excessive rainfall still be a problem. Fortunately, you have soil on the ground that can absorb that moisture, but the problem is if you have somewhere like a pond or lake or stream, that can definitely get overflowed. But I want to take you to the big picture here. We are talking about the rain that we are expecting, but let's look now across the studio at this. What if you have a situation where you're driving on a road, whether it be out in the country or maybe you're here in town, and you encounter a flooded roadway? Well, I want to tell you about just how powerful water can be. If we think about the power of water here in central Alabama, we think about the water, let's say just 6 inches of water is on the road. That is actually enough to sweep a person away. If you have a foot of water on the road, that can actually sweep a car away. But let's say you have a situation where there is over that, then you can see areas across the city or in the country where the water can be completely overwhelmed. If you recall, during situations like tropical seasons, when we have hurricanes or tropical storms, we say you can hide from the wind, but you want to run from the water. And so that's why when we have flooding here in central Alabama, we tell you, hey, if you encounter a flooded roadway, turn around, don't drown. Water is so powerful, and even with just 6 inches of water on the road, you just don't know how powerful it can be, Wes.
All right, thanks, Lauren, and I'm glad certainly that you're turning around, right? All that water there in the studio, and across the nation in California, they're cleaning up today after significant flooding made its way through parts of that state on Monday. We first brought you this story yesterday after heavy rains impacted neighborhoods, covered roadways and freeways, even leaving cars submerged. Authorities performing at least 15 water rescues, but thankfully the fire department says there were no fatalities, although some may be without a place to stay, of course, due to all that heavy rain and flooding.
The highest part of our house was our kitchen island, and that's where we were sitting on top of until we were able to get out safely.
You got your dog? Where?
Over there in my house, but he's by himself.
3670?
But I know they have.
Yeah, you see that kind of rain in that part of the country. That is certainly a big story. The National Weather Service forecasting that the San Diego River would crest, meaning that it was likely going to reach its, of course, peak level there at crest stage. Thunderstorms and showers continued into the evening last night.
And some parts of the country are still dealing with icy weather. Hard to believe as icy conditions remain in parts of Tennessee. It's leaving many people stranded in their homes. The Nashville Department of Transportation releasing a statement saying that they are still treating main roads and they will get to others as quickly as they can. And hey, in 30 seconds, we bring a heroic tale as well as how you can have those tips to prevent injuries during the winter. We'll be right back.
And a lot of wet weather on the way for tomorrow, but looking at the radar right now, just a few light showers starting to show up to the south here. Actually, let's go in for a closer look. If you have our First Alert weather app, you're heading out this evening. Looks like in the parts of Chilton County. To the south there around Maplesville. Our friends there will zoom in on southern Chilton County. You can see just some light showers there moving to the north, but it's going to be very light precipitation that we deal with at least for tonight through tomorrow morning. But as we get into the day tomorrow, those rain chances go way up. We'll see the rain more widespread and more likely for the afternoon and into the evening. A few rumbles of thunder also possible. Not expecting severe storms. The main concern with this system is going to be a threat for localized flash flooding. And we'll walk you through the full 7-day forecast coming up on Weather Extra.
And hey, Wes, check out this heroic effort made by a police officer from the Jonesboro Police Department. This video was posted by the department. Officer Troy Ellison was able to safely locate the child who fell through the ice on a local pond and pull him up to safety with the help of members of the fire department. Always remember to be mindful during cold temperatures and that icy conditions are never safe. This is also a great time to talk about how there are more outdoor fall-related emergencies, especially among older adults during this season than there is any other time of year. In today's Health Minute, Mandy Gaither has more on other injuries that can be possible during colder temps, as well as tips on how to avoid getting hurt.
The icy sidewalks, the snow-filled driveways. The weather this time of year can take a toll on your body.
When you're clearing off snow, your lower back takes a lot of that pressure.
Emergency and sports medicine Dr. Mark Conroy with the Ohio State's Wexner Medical Center says to prepare your body before you clear off what winter brings.
The number one thing I recommend to people is they have to warm up. You know, you go out and it's 30 degrees or less outside. Your body's not accustomed to that temperature. Often it can be a big shock.
Conroy says to stretch and loosen up the body before going out. If you're shoveling snow, he says to push it, don't lift it. That can strain your back. Give your body a break. Don't try to do it all at once. Make sure you have the proper equipment. Conroy says a shovel with a bend in the handle can take some pressure off your lower back. Vary your movement so your body doesn't do the same thing over and over, and make sure your body is in the right position.
Feet should be about shoulder width apart. You should be bending at the knees as opposed to bending at your back, trying to keep your back straight.
And be extra vigilant where you're walking outside. Watch for ice and slippery patches. Falls can happen easily and wreak havoc on your body.
There's a lot of musculoskeletal injuries involved with falling, such as sprains, contusions, and fractures.
For health.
Dr. Conroy says to also make sure to stay hydrated. When you're bundled up and working outside, you may actually not realize how much you're sweating. Make sure you're drinking enough water to avoid dehydration. And wild video tonight from Missouri. Watch this fire truck coming down an icy road, spinning out and causing a crash. Homeowners say they woke up to a loud boom. The fire truck was responding to an accident when this mess happened.
The fire truck was coming down so fast. I don't know if it was because they just lost control completely and they were flying down, but they started to circle and spiral right here. And right after they had done that, they hit that blue car. And I think that hitting that blue car really preventing them from hitting the house.
Fire officials say there was some minor damage to the 56,000-pound truck, but fortunately no injuries. Well, still ahead, we have more on to weather tomorrow's rain event that warrants a first alert weather day, and let you know if there's any dry weather beyond the 7-day. We'll be right back.
Welcome back into First Alert Weather Extra. Some of the mildest weather that we have seen in over a week around the area. A little bit cooler now at Coleman. We're at 55, but a major improvement over this time last week. And we're going to see a few showers out there tonight across the area. Starting to see some light showers returning. Looks like around places like the Trio area, Centerville, and back in towards Marion. Some light showers moving north. Most of us with just a lot of clouds out there. Temperatures, you can see 50s north, 64 Tuscaloosa, Birmingham 62, and Anniston at this time at 59 degrees. But again, on AccuTrack, watching for some of those showers there developing back to the south. And we'll see more of this overnight. Some of these scattered showers, especially by 9, 10 o'clock, moving south to north. But the heavier rain is still back in here to the west. You know, we were talking about this yesterday. Where do we see all that heavy rain? These same areas, and that's what we're going to deal with starting tomorrow. It's going to be a slow go for this wet weather to make its way through the state. This is a look at the global high-resolution atmospheric forecast system, and it's showing scattered showers through late this evening. There's a look at 5:30 in the morning. A few showers around, temperatures not changing much overnight. A lot of 50s. We'll probably see a little bit of fog in some areas as well. But we get into the day tomorrow around by late morning, midday. You can see how that axis of heavier rain sets up, and we'll really have to watch those northwest areas as the day goes on for the risk of localized flooding. You look at this, and this you might think that the rain's going to just move right on through west to east across the state, but you just see how it keeps coming in waves here through tomorrow night. There's a look at 10 p.m. Still more rain. We're going to have some thunder at times, so there will be some rumbles of thunder as this moves through. We get to Thursday morning. We wake up to some showers, maybe a couple of breaks out there, but the rain is going to pick up in coverage again throughout the day. There will be periods of rain and thunder, and could be some locally heavy rain, especially as we get a little bit closer to Friday there. I still think Friday during the morning we'll enjoy some breaks in the wet weather, but the chance for scattered showers is going to stick around through Friday. So I'd plan for the possibility of some showers at times on Friday. This will look at the next 1 to 7 days. The forecast precipitation from the Weather Prediction Center there, what we call their QPF product, and it's showing the possibility of 4 inches of rain in a lot of areas there. You can see 2 to 4 inches again through the end of the week. I think some of us we're going to end up with over 5 inches of rain, especially to the northwest. As we go to the 7-day forecast, a very rainy setup, and again Saturday still looks like a good chance for showers. As you can see there, highs in the 60s, and then Sunday looks dry but still cloudy, a little bit cooler, but we don't see a major drop in temperatures. Looks like seasonal weather as we go into the start of next week. We've also had some cool pictures sent in of what we call the moon halo, perfect 22-degree radius, and a lot of folks sending in these photos last night. And what causes this? A lot of times when you start to see moisture in the upper reaches of the atmosphere, you get up around 20,000 feet. Mostly what you're seeing is moisture that's composed of ice. So the refraction of the moonlight causes this perfect halo to show up, and it can be an indicator that the atmosphere is moistening up. And a lot of times, if you've ever heard the saying, ring around the moon, rain comes soon, well, that is certainly true this week. As we go to meteorologist Lauren Linehan. Lauren, we're watching, of course, what's coming up as we go through Saturday, but it looks like on down the road there in early February, some more wet weather.
Yeah, Wes, you know, this wet pattern that we've been seeing really taking over for January, I don't necessarily think February is like, all right, we're going to dry out. I mean, oftentimes we can see, especially during El Nino winters, months like January and February can end up with a surplus of rainfall. Do we need it? Yes. Do we want it all at once? No. So let's look at the First Alert weather calendar. You can see maybe as we wrap up January and get into the first few days of February. So for next week could be pretty quiet, but possibly that first weekend of February, and then the week after that, we're talking February 5th and 6th. We have been seeing the possibility of that weather pattern turning possibly a little bit more unsettled, but we'll be watching that in the days ahead. What I will tell you, you may be wondering, hey, are we going to have any more brushes with winter weather if we're going to be seeing the possibility of precipitation in the forecast? It does look like above average temperatures may still be the name of the game 8 to 14 days from now. This is looking at January 31st through February 6th, showing that above average temperature pattern possibly sticking around. Now, does that mean it's going to be sweltering hot? No. I mean, if we look at these potential lows here, it just shows temperatures running a little bit above average, maybe not seeing as many brushes with freezing weather, but possibly morning lows getting a little bit milder in there at times. And then as far as those potential high temperatures, we could could potentially see some 60s as we're wrapping up the month and heading into February. So nothing too out of the ordinary. Just looks like temperatures would be running a little bit above average. Of course, if we are going to see temperatures a little bit milder, we always want to be mindful if there is that possibility of above average precipitation, which is what we're seeing a chance of 8 to 14 days from now. You want to watch for any severe threats, but fortunately it doesn't look like for us here in central Alabama that's going to be panning out over the next few days. Looking beyond the 7-day, this is looking at Wednesday, January 31st, last day of the month. We see things kind of quiet. Could still be a little cloudy here, but generally not seeing much in the way of rainfall for much of the work week as it looks right now. But as I mentioned, that first week in February, once we get past Groundhog's Day, it does look like possibly we could see a system developing in the Gulf, a Gulf low that could maybe bring some wet weather to parts of the southeast, and that could include us here in Alabama, and that's something that could linger through the early parts of the month. So generally the pattern that we're seeing, we may end up being a little quiet for several days next week. We're always thankful for that. Quiet, no freezing weather. It's like, okay, we can all breathe for a second, but we do want to watch for that possibility of more rainfall as we go into February, and it's just going to be pretty wet here in the interim. But as we continue to track the weather, we'll have a final look at First Alert Weather Extra right after the break.
We were just talking about, we're coming up on the Snowmageddon anniversary, 2014.
Wow,
Yeah.
10 years, Wes, 10 years.
No Snowmageddon this week, though. A lot of rain. We're going to be talking about those rain chances again coming up tonight at 9, so check in for updates.